Hey everybody, this is Tyson.
And Logan.
And you're listening to Dad, Bods, and Beards podcast. It's a show that gives you a fresh look on being a father, a husband, and honestly, a man being in today's world.
For people who want to have a good time, laugh, and be uplifted, thanks for subscribing and listening. Now for the show.
So,
Yes.
I was just looking at my knee
Okay.
and I saw a scar. And I remember why I got that scar and this one right here. Have you ever been on the Alpine Slide
No.
in Park City? You've never done Alpine Slide?
No.
Family trip. We're going to do it this year. Your family and mine.
Okay.
No, I'm dead serious. It's
Okay.
going to happen.
We'll do it.
Anyway, a little scary.
Isn't it like $100 a person?
No, it's like 15.
Really? What am
Uh-huh.
I thinking then?
Maybe the season pass.
I don't know. Whatever. Yeah.
Or I think it's $90 if you get the day pass. You
So,
can go on.
Just
every day.
imagine you hurtling down a mountain.
So this is what we're talking about.
Is that why you got scars?
Yeah. So I'm by myself. It's the first time all my kids have always wanted to go
So
with
hold
me.
on. Like, what is the Alpine Slide? Because not everybody's from Utah that listens.
But it's everywhere. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
joking. I think it's in Switzerland, Jackson Hole here. I think that might be it. I don't know. But anyway, you go up the mountain, take the ski lift up the mountain. You take a cart when you land. When you get off the
Ski lift.
ski lift, and you take the cart, you walk about half a mile to where they put four fiberglass like slides.
Oh, okay.
And so it's almost like a water slide, but it's dry, and you just use the cart to go fast and slow. But so the kids have always wanted to go with me, so I've always been very, safe
Yeah.
and careful. Well, it's me for the first time by myself in years, and I'm like, oh, I can go fast. and mind you, so you're going by yourself. It's like a slide, and so when you turn, you can fall off, and so you slow down so you don't fall off, like because you're not in a track or anything. You're just you're free. So I'm sitting there going really, really fast. And next thing I know, I'm like, oh, I'm falling. And next thing I know, I'm bleeding on here, bleeding all over here because the fiberglass and
it's like a cheese grater.
It just took everything out, and so now I just have scars from.
You just had like road rash from fiberglass.
Yeah,
That's
I was, but I stayed on. I didn't officially fall off. I just more like kept going backwards, and I'm like, because when I turned, I over adjusted. Like, because I went really, really high and I almost fell. So I did this, and all of a sudden I fell.
You're like, and there's this thing called gravity.
Yeah. But I found out I can do a sit up because I feel like this, and I pulled myself up, and I'm like,
oh, you're like, I got abs.
But I hurt for a while.
I bet. You probably had like fiberglass lodged in your skin.
Yeah.
Oh, gives me the ick.
I didn't cry.
Well, yeah, because you're a man. I'm just kidding.
Totally opposite of everything we've been talking about these
like,
last 36, 37, 39 episodes, 50 episodes, whatever.
Yeah, all of them.
Because I'm a man. Okay, anyway. The opposite of belonging is fitting in.
The opposite of belonging
is
fitting in. Okay.
And I talked to Candace about this, and she's like, no, belonging and fitting in is the same thing. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think fitting in is conforming to what they want you to be. Like, I'm going to say what they want me to say, or what I think they want me to say. I'm going to look the way I feel like I need to look in order to belong to this or fit into this. I'm going to eat. I'm going to do everything I can do to fit in. And so I think fitting in is changing who you are and an aspect of who you are in order to feel the security of belonging. So you think about high school, you have all these cliques, and even as adults, there's lots of cliques everywhere you go.
Oh, yeah.
And so like you had the cowboys, you had the preppies, you had the stoners, you had all these groups, and I always thought, for me, you want to feel comfortable, you want to feel like you belong, but at the same time, some things that you really do enjoy. Like, let's say you like to do drugs, but you're not going to do drugs in front of someone that doesn't like to do them. So you're going to go with a group that likes to do stuff like that. So the question I have for you is, Why do we have cliques in life? Why do we cower to be someone we are not? Why do we have to fit into groups to feel loved?
Well, I think it's just natural human desire to want to be accepted, right? Like you don't like I mean there's a lot of people who are like I'm a lone wolf. Like they truly maybe don't need the acceptance of other people. They don't need relationships, but like I just think it's human nature to like want to belong to like a sense of community or like you feel like I mean that's why like I mean that's the whole point of a family, isn't it? To like you like naturally are supposed to belong with this group of people that gets you and you just I guess you want to feel seen, you want to feel understood, you want to feel heard, you want to feel like people get you,
Okay.
right? That's what I would think.
Oh no, this is just
Yeah.
I'm asking you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think cuz I spent so many years wearing a mask, making people think that I was okay when I was tore up on the inside. Suicidal, dark, didn't want to be here anymore, but it's like I was having babies. I was married to you know, and I still am married to an amazing woman. But it's like I felt like nobody knew me. And since I have gotten healthy, like dude, the feeling of somebody knowing who you are, like at your core and like getting to be like 100% yourself is so freeing and like so relaxing. Like I don't feel this tension to like be someone that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
because when I was someone that I was not, like I had to like put so much effort into just being around people versus now I'm just kind of like if you don't want to be around me, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like because like I know who wants to be around me, I know who I want to be around and I like I feel so much better.
Yeah. But this is more talking about right now. Let's say back in the day you didn't feel secure about yourself or whatever, and you
Yeah.
wanted to feel that security. I think a lot of people want to feel secure. They want to be able to feel like they
Yeah.
belong. They feel a sense of the security. I think more, if anything, it's just security, so like they don't feel alone or they don't get made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you think about it, when now this to anyone who's homeschooled, so I'm like this isn't a knock on them. I think there's a lot of people homeschooling now,
Mm-hmm.
and rightfully so.
Oh, we've talked about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, they do lose out on learning how to communicate with others and that type of thing.
Like an aspect of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think not only is school important for educational wise, like knowledge,
Sure.
but also you need knowledge of how to communicate with people. Because like we were talking about before, there are lots of cringy moments where I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have said that.
Mm.
You don't learn that being homeschooled. And so you don't have any of those cringy moments, so you don't learn how to communicate with other people.
Interesting.
And so I think that's another sense of when we do stuff like this, we're learning how to communicate and all that kind of stuff. However, so Psychology Today, I have a quote for you. Psychology Today says, familiarity is the social glue that bonds people together. And we deliberately seek out the similar and the recognizable in order to feel secure. If we are doing the same as everyone else, we must be doing it right and finding a reflection of ourselves in those around us to form a validation. So a lot of us need to be validated.
Oh yeah.
And we need to know what we're doing is right. I don't know if it's because a lot of us are people pleasers because we've suffered a lot of trauma and we just require knowing that we're doing what we need to do. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm like, it'd be nice just to be recognized how hard I work at home. Like my wife always is really good like that. She's like, Tyson, you work so hard. Thank you so much for it. She's very, very good at that. But it's nice. And if she didn't do that, it'd be hard for me.
Well, dude, even as a full grown man, like my dad expressed the other day that of how proud he was of me of something that I did. I'm like, that made me feel really good.
Uh-huh.
Like that just hearing that my dad is like recognizing part of my life and some of the successes or accomplishments that I've had, and then saying he was proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's like like I said, it's like a natural human desire to be like want to be accepted and want to be like get approval from people that you respect. Like so, I 100% get that.
So, is conforming who you are changing a little bit of yourself? You remember Jim Gaffigan? Not remember. Just where's that? You like mayonnaise? but these guys don't know I like mayonnaise. And so let's just not talk about mayonnaise with these people.
Yeah.
So like we do, like they say, like research shows that we adjust our personality based upon who we're around.
Sure.
And so, but a lot of the times if they're like, I'm around people who are just kind of vulgar, I usually just shut down.
Sure. Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah. I just like, I don't like this. And I tell if they ask them, like, that's just not me. I don't like talking about stuff like this. But is conforming, is that a form of true happiness, or is that just a sense of security?
Ooh, geez, that was a good one. I feel like every time you ask me like a go question, my response is always like, well, it's an individual thing, right? Like, but no, I think that like you do have to like, my wife is really good at this of thinking before she acts or speaks. It's this thing that I've never really done before, but no, like you have to, I think you have to like read the room, because you can have good, meaningful relationships with people that aren't like your super close relationships, but you do have to play it close to the vest. Like we interact with some people. My wife will maybe remind me like, hey, this person has this situation going on, so maybe don't make this joke. Obviously that's part of my personality, but they don't know me well enough to know that maybe they could accidentally, maybe me accidentally saying something could make them feel bad or think that I'm a jerk because I'm insensitive or whatever. So I think that there is an appropriate level of conforming to a current situation that you're in. And I think that shows maturity. But if you're conforming so that people will like you or accept you, I think that's different.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Does that make sense? So like if you're conforming so that you will get someone's acceptance, I think that's unhealthy. But if you're adjusting parts of yourself so that you are respectful of other people's lives or boundaries or situation, that's maturity. And I've learned 100% of that from my wife.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm just normally like a no filter, loose cannon. I'm going to just say whatever. But she's been kind of like, hey, like this person, this situation. Yada, yada. I'm like, oh, okay. That's actually like, thank you for not, for allowing me to not embarrass myself. So
let's talk about the maturity thing. Because I was at the warehouse yesterday.
Yeah.
And Courtney wasn't there, your sister.
Yeah.
And so one of her workers she called her and I talked to her on the phone, and we were talking about another guy that she was working with. And I'm like, yeah, he's not feeling good today. And mind you, he's such a good kid. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there's like 6 or 7 people around us. And sometimes I forget the whole maturity thing and like, hey, I actually need to filter what I say.
Yeah, because you're a business owner that is there like with
a
business relationship.
But anyway, and I'm like, yeah, he's not feeling good. He might have RIAs, maybe possibly gas.
Yeah.
And everyone just looked at me and like, probably shouldn't have said that.
I think he's got some tummy bubble.
No, and I thought it was funny.
Sure. And, well, I think it's hilarious too.
Yeah, but
maybe not in the
professional aspect.
Maybe not in that setting.
Yeah. And so I think conforming to be respectful, and even though to me teasing is a form of respect, it really is. Like,
oh yeah, well I mean
it's a form of endearment. Thing. Yeah, it's like, oh, I love you. You're ugly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like I mean, like any good dad, I got funny little pet names for my kids, right? Like there's Bud, or like, I call my little girl, I've been calling her like Bug a lot lately, like, hey Bug, like, or whatever. But like every now and then my little boy walk in like, what's up, Stinky? like he doesn't take offense to it, but it's just like, I think that's just a dad thing. But and then if you're comfortable with somebody, like who I know you're talking about, like I've known him for a while. I've been to that warehouse a bunch of times over the last year, and you and I are unapologetically ourselves in public all the time.
Yeah.
But I can see how that joke maybe like just didn't land. So yeah. That's funny.
I do Porter. I call him Porter Potty quite a lot.
Porter Potty.
And it's so much, in fact, that every time we pass the bathroom, like a honey bucket or something like that, he's like, Dad, there's my bathroom. And he's 16.
Dude, it's funny. What's funny is I wanted to name that was one of my names for my boy before he was born was Porter. I loved Porter. I loved that name. I love the name Porter. But then that dawned on me. I'm like, oh, kids are going to call him Porter Potty.
And so his dad does.
Yeah.
Or I call him Popo.
Popo.
Yeah, oh no.
Well, see, like my boy Elliot, we call him Elliot Schmelliot. So every now and then I'll be like, what's up, Schmelliot? So,
but he
sidetrack.
plays it, yeah. But anyway, I like that. I like conforming is a sign of maturity, but if you're conforming to feel validated or to feel loved, that's the problem.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
if you're adjusting yourself like an appropriate level of conforming to like be respectful, I think it's admirable. But if you're conforming to fit in so people will accept you, I think that's can be unhealthy. That could be
I think we should end the episode right there.
like and done.
No, because there's nothing, you can't say that better. Like, that was perfect. Jordan Peterson probably could. Okay. Now, not conforming and being your true self and finding the friendships and the wife or the spouse or the significant other or the boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever, how freeing is that for you? Because I feel like I can be that way with two people. You and Candace.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can see that. I got maybe 3.
I might have 3 too, but I think just right. I have 3, but with that being said,
yeah, no, I think I got like you, my wife, and my best friend from childhood.
Yeah,
is like probably the people that know me the best.
Yeah,
that I can pick up and talk to at any moment, right? But it is insanely freeing. I think being your true self, but at the same time, like I think there's a fine line with like being your true self or feeling like you can be unfiltered or whatever, because at the same time, you could very easily like branch over into maybe like some narcissistic tendencies of kind of like, I don't care what you think about me because I'm going to say what I want to say, or I'm going to be what I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I think it is a fine line where like maturity comes into play again too. Kind of like there's a million things that I'm sure that I could say that would be super hurtful to my wife. And then I could be like, oh, I'm just being my true self, because people do that.
Yeah.
And it's gross. But like I was talking about, with the years of being completely undiagnosed and just super unhealthy and pretending to be okay when I wasn't, people thought I was good, but I wasn't. Mm-hmm. But then once, like the fear that I had of like people finding out that I wasn't okay, or like my fears being realized that maybe I did have a mental illness or all of this stuff, the inner turmoil of like being found out kept me in this like conformative state of like making sure that everybody thought that I was okay. But then when it comes out that you're not okay, people get like, they're like surprised, or they're like shocked. They're like, oh, we never would have known, which that's common all the time too. Like when someone ends up,
hides it so well.
Yeah, they hide it so well. They end up taking their own life or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, we never knew. Right. So conforming can also be like so self-sabotaging. So when and it's not a quick thing. It takes years of like really working at it to become so comfortable and okay with who you are and like self-acceptance, that then you start allowing yourself to be like, to show that the real part of yourself to the people that you care about. Because dude, my brain is like going a million miles a minute thinking about this, because I'm just like reliving all those things of like that vulnerability of like
when you were naked.
Yeah.
Behind police car.
I was just talking to my wife about that, about how like you're just like throwing that in there and it like didn't happen. But no, just like talking about like being able to just be like, I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not okay right now. I don't know why. Or like, I'm hallucinating and I'm seeing this. Like, I don't know why. Or like, I feel suicidal. Like, dude, for years, I just talked about this the other day. Like my wife didn't even know that I had written her letters to give to her when I eventually, took my own life. So it is insanely freeing to be like, I'm at a point where I know that is not a scenario for me anymore. Mm-hmm. And like, I just letting her know, like, I had these, I didn't even let her read them. I got rid of them. They ended up being for me, I realized. But like having that weight off of my chest and knowing that I can talk to my wife or talk to you or talk to my other best friend or talk to certain people about like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is who I am, and not being afraid of being judged. That's what it is. It's like knowing that you're not going to be judged for how you're feeling is the freeing part.
I like that a lot. We're going to revert back. I want to revert back to what you said at the beginning, where you said there's some times where you might become narcissist or say things that are blunt in a not a kind way because, I'm just telling you my truth.
Yeah.
I see that quite a bit. And I'm like, you can say the truth and still be kind.
Oh, yeah.
And it was never hard for me to do that. But I see people all the time where it's like, well, I was in the military and this is how it's done. I'm like,
Mm.
you're not in the military anymore. Or I don't think that's how it was done. I think just who you are. Where they're like, well, this person's a jerk and I'm going to tell them why. I'm like, no, you don't need to. Just ignore him and just move on with your life. You don't have
Hmm.
to be mean. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have, and so I think that's a form of maturity, emotional maturity.
Mm. Yeah.
Because I think emotional maturity, I mean, like, dude, get over yourself. Like, bad things happen to everyone,
Yeah.
and you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be cruel to validate your pain.
Yeah. I don't think I could have said that any better, because I think a lot of people will use their pain, or they'll use their trauma or just a bad experience to like hold hold something over
Uh
somebody,
huh.
especially if you're the person that did it to
Mm-hmm.
them, or you're the person that was maybe guilty of
Almost like
like,
gaslighting them.
oh yeah, 100%. But that's the thing, is like some people, like, they almost will wear their, maybe you just said this, maybe this is the thought I'm having, like they wear it like a badge of honor,
Yeah.
right? Like they wear their pain or their trauma or their guilt as kind of like, well, dude, it's just holding on to that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you got to let it go. Like, you got to, like, it's like, no, I hold on to stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I have grudges that I'm still working through. But I just had a conversation with my wife about this, about like hitting a point where like somebody who caused a lot of pain or trauma in my life, of kind of like, it doesn't affect me anymore. Like their opinion of me doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore in the best way possible for me. But at the same time, I am extremely capable of saying some horrible things that would make my wife or you or some other people that I care about feel terrible. So I feel like we have this responsibility to also like take care of the people that we care about, and make sure that our words and our the things that we're saying to them like are chosen carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you care about the emotional state of somebody, like you think about what you say before you speak to them, because you want to improve their lives, you don't want to hinder their lives. So if you're going to just sit there and use what has happened to you, or what somebody has done to you, or whatever, and use that to like put yourself above somebody, or like excuse your terrible actions, or like excuse your mistakes, instead of like owning up to them, like that's just a slippery road I don't think you want to go down.
At all.
I think it's the concept of like, people think that like, oh, you need to, I don't know. I think forgiveness is more for yourself
Mm-hmm.
than it is for that person.
No,
Or
100%.
yeah,
Because they have a place in your mind where,
they're just occupying it.
yeah, it's just occupying and just where it shouldn't be there. It sucks sometimes because you don't ever purposely hurt anyone. You always are trying to be kind, but at the same time, you got to stick up for yourself sometimes. And
And I think that's where you learn a lot about someone or a relationship. And I think that just because somebody holds a certain position in your life, whether that's, you know, because of like a family relationship
mm-hmm.
status, like they hold a certain title in a family, or you know growing up with somebody, like, oh, you've been friends with this person for so long, or like a coworker or whatever. Like, I think that's a very slippery road again, where
Feel entitled.
people feel like they're entitled to part of your life because of whatever title or position they hold, that like, well, this is what's like, no, like, I don't have to accept any of this, because it is not improving my life. It's a detriment. So it's like, I'm sorry that I have to do this, but like, you got to learn how to this was a big lesson for me, is like learning to set boundaries was like one of the hardest things that I had to learn, because going back to what you talked about, like, I realized how much acceptance I got from like outside sources
Mm-hmm.
by telling and oversharing everything.
Oversharing is a big
And
deal.
sometimes the oversharing and over is this a word, over vulnerability, being too vulnerable, and like, and just expressing too much, it came back to
To the wrong people.
it came back to bite me in some situations. So like,
Okay, so let's talk about creating boundaries. I don't. Okay, let me start. I don't know if we talked about this in the past, so forgive me if
maybe
we
not.
have. So my daughter,
Yeah.
she has panic attacks
Yeah.
to the point where they're very, very. They take over her body,
Yeah.
and she literally freezes and can't do anything, and they're literal panic attacks. Then you go to the same school, and the teacher finds out she has a panic attack. Like, oh, she can still do it. In my mind, it's because people are saying, "Oh, I have a panic attack. I'm having a panic attack." No, you're nervous because you didn't study.
Yeah.
You're not having a panic attack. A real panic attack, you'd be punching yourself. You'd be stiff as a board. You wouldn't be able to control yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a panic attack. And you were just nervous because you decided to go to bed early or watch a movie late and just did not take care of what you needed to take care of for this test.
Yeah.
That's a panic. You know what I mean? You're just stressed, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Everyone experiences that.
Yeah. But it's the same thing I feel like for boundary. I'm creating a boundary. Like all this. Like the whole thing about boundaries is I agree because I've created some.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And if you do this, that's you, but I'm not going to be a part of this. Or, hey, I'll still answer the phone, but I'm not going to come to the party. I'll still be here for you if you need me, but I'm not going to be there, around all that.
Yeah.
But to use how do I explain this? I feel like boundaries are being overused because you have a set of values. You are not living those set of values, so you're miserable. And so the people around you who are living those values, you don't want to be a part of anymore because they remind you of who you want to be.
Yeah.
So why am I creating a boundary to get you out of my life because I'm miserable? And so I think a lot of people are using boundaries as an excuse, like I'm offended because you're not living the way I want to live. And in fact, I'm like, no, this is how you're living is against who you are. You chose to be different. And so to me, there's certain boundaries that I think are just like, they use the word boundaries like they're just being bad people. I'm like, no, you're actually the one who's being bad. I don't know. I feel very,
no, I can tell.
I feel very passionate. It's just because I'm like, quit using that as an excuse. You're the idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're the person, like, I'm sorry.
I get it. No,
but at the same time, like there's boundaries that need to be put in place. Like, what if your family's not the one who's doing drugs? I'm doing the drugs. I know I shouldn't do drugs, but I'm going to set a boundary so I don't have to be around the people who are not doing drugs, and I'm going to go hang out with them.
Yeah.
It's totally detrimental to you. And I just think the boundary thing is overused and overplayed, and it should be for your better benefit, not for your detriment.
Well, I think that.
Sorry.
No, I think that was.
I hope that doesn't offend anyone, but I just.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's a million things we've said that would offend people before that.
Yeah.
So, I think that everyone experiences boundaries. Everybody experiences them differently because I think everybody has a different understanding of them, right? I think maybe the less mature understanding of boundaries is like, I don't like being told this or said this, so I'm going to set a boundary versus like maybe understanding, well, no, a boundary is to protect yourself from a situation or from people that are extremely toxic or are not good for you, or they are taking you down a road that you know that you shouldn't go. I agree with you in the sense that that word can be overused as an excuse to just cut somebody out of your life that you don't want there anymore, which everyone is completely entitled to cut whoever they want out of their life.
100%.
Right. And I know you get that. But for me, boundaries are kind of like, I still have a relationship with this person, but I'm not going to discuss this topic anymore with you because the last time we did,
you fought.
It did not end well for either of us. And it crossed a line. And that's the thing is I feel like sometimes boundaries can upset people that don't understand them. But at the same time, people can use that word and they can use that scenario to like manipulate a situation to get what they want out of it and feel self-validated.
That's exactly it.
So it's like, dude, that's the thing is like, I'm learning the more I get into stuff like this and the more I like try to just make myself healthier for my wife and kids, I'm realizing there is no black and white anything. Everything is gray because everything is individualized. Everything is so specific to each individual person that I think if there's anything that I could suggest to anybody, like to look into and practice and like figure out is like self-awareness, because as soon as you realize how you come off to other people, and this can go back to conforming and this can go back to fitting in. As soon as you realize how you come off to other people and you care about how you come off to other people, not like because you want to fit in or you want to be accepted, because you truly want to like not hurt people Like you don't want to like, you want to leave a positive impact, I guess is what I'm saying. When you realize that how you come off leaves an impact, whether it's good or bad or just whatever, that's where you will kind of start finding your path of like where your real true boundaries exist with certain people, or like where your real friendships are, where your real meaningful relationships are. Because I realized there is such little time and such little effort, or I mean, little energy left at the end of just existing in a day, that I just don't have it for certain situations and certain people anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's not where I want to go anymore. That's not what I want to be. And that's not like where I want to like give my time and effort to. So that goes back to maturity. Like you can force feed that to somebody all day long, but until they see it for themselves, you're screaming at a wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I have a situation going on right now with some people that I care about where it's just like, I told you, I'm like, I haven't felt like I want to physically hurt somebody like this in a long time, but it's like, what good's that going to do if I go and blow up at the person? Nothing. They don't care, because they've proven time and time again, they just don't care.
It's true.
See, this is maybe maybe, I don't know. I can maybe see how this can maybe be viewed a little unhealthy, but this is something that I learned in cognitive behavioral therapy a few years ago. Whether this was just a tool that he gave me at the time to just cope with things, and I maybe latched onto it a little bit too hard, but I put people in my mind, not like I don't put people in boxes, like when I'm expressing my opinions about them to other people or whatever. I try not to talk about people, my opinions about people to other people, but in my mind, I put people in boxes of expectations. Like my expectation of my relationship with you exists within this box, including positive and negative interactions. So like when you stay within that box, I'm not surprised. So I'm not going to like have an emotional reaction like I used to.
Yeah.
But you get outside that box, and that's maybe where I'm like, if someone like does something a little bit different, a little bit more extreme or whatever, that's when I'm starting to be like, I kind of like signs of like the overly emotional side of the bipolar can start to arise. And I have to like physically, like cognitively, like pull myself back, because it's, you know what I mean? Then that way I'm not surprised. I'm not caught off guard when someone just acts exactly the way that you expect them to, whether that's positive or negative. And that's not me being kind of like, I've got people pegged. I know exactly how they, like, no, I just, based off my life experiences with all the different people in my life, they have a box of expectations that they fit in for me, of like that relation. So, and it's like, that's something that I had to do because I set unrealistic expectations for myself and everybody else for years, because I was so untrue to myself and I was just so unhealthy. So that works for me. It's probably a terrible advice. It's probably terrible advice for some people.
No, I just, okay. So let's move a little different aspect, different vibe, so to speak. So you and I have, all of us have experienced this. You've experienced this in your personal life, but a feeling of, I can't wait until.
Okay.
Like, I can't wait until my kids are older, and then you and I can go on a date without getting a babysitter, or I can't wait until they're out of diapers, or I can't wait until anything, you know, we make more money, or I can't wait till I get my raise or get my new job. And there's a quote by Robert Holden, and he says, "Beware of destination addiction. A preoccupation with the idea that happiness is the next place, the next job, and with the next partner. Until you give up the idea that happiness is somewhere else, it will never be where you are." So, based on us trying to fit in, based on conforming to fit in, based on settling, I use settling just because sometimes you, meaning us, will go and we'll settle. We'll settle for our, not being happy. Like, I have to have a job. I had to provide for my family. We're settling based on that, and based on the quote of, we're never actually going to be happy if we're always waiting for the next thing to happen. How do we begin to fight for us? How do we fight for our happiness? And how do we fight for what we truly want?
Well, I mean, it's the age old, like, the grass is greener on the other side, right? Like, or Keeping Up with the Joneses. There's a million parables and, comparisons to that, right? I think that you gotta find, I don't know. I mean, it's almost something like, we talk about it all the time, and I can't wait to have him on the show. Like Robert, like, I think until you have a situation where you might lose the things you take for granted, that you don't realize that like you don't have to have what everyone says or social media says you have to be happy, because that is the whole, like when you understand social media, when you understand that it is all about the hook,
Mm-hmm.
which is the first thing that people say, right? And then the body of like what the message you want to get across, and then the call to action at the end. So it's like, did you know that, whatever, like, I mean, just some stupid, something like, do you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 35? And you're like, oh, duh, I want to be a millionaire. Like, yeah, right. Like, and then you listen to their whole 40-second spiel. And then they're like, click the link in my bio and I'll send you, put you on my email list. Like that's how it works. Like that's how people are, and we're guilty of that, but mine are more like saying things because then it's like, hey, I want you to be happy with who you are. And the same thing with you with Copper John's, like, be proud of who you are. Like, I want you, like, we're trying to get people to be like, be confident and be okay with what you have. Right. So, but I say this all the time. We've been talking about this quite a bit of like, comparison is the thief of joy. When you are constantly thinking about what you don't have, that's all you're going to think about. But we have Robert, who has inspired both of us to where he has the wake up list. He gets up every single morning, and but I think before his feet even hit the ground, which I'm pretty sure that guy gets up before his alarm clock. Like he wakes his alarm clock up.
He works out at 4 a.m.
Yeah, but like it is so infectious to sit there and tell yourself the things that you were grateful for. And I know that there's the whole fake it till you make it controversy, right? Like some people are like, oh, you're lying to yourself, but no, like, until you have a situation where you could lose the things that you're taking for granted. Like you know my feelings on this of like I don't take my wife for granted the way I used to when I was very unhealthy, because I very well could have lost her, or like lost my kids, or lost my life, or like so many different things. And so when you put those things into perspective, I think that's where you start to become happy and with where you're at. And you got to remove the things from your life that are making you feel like what you have is not good enough.
Yeah.
And if you, at the same time, the thing is true. If you feel like something you have isn't good enough, who's going to be the person to change that?
You are.
You are. And I'm not sitting here telling you, like, I'm not going to try to be David Goggins, right? Because like that guy's crazy. I love his stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're going to be a millionaire if you go do this and this and this. Not everybody's going to be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to have their dream car. Not everybody's going to be able to buy a house. That's just not the way that the world works. But you are the only person that is going to, like, this is going to sound really bad, but it's true. You're the only person who's going to save you at the end of the day. There will be people who are there for you.
You're the only one you're the only one that can, but you're the only one who
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah. You're the only person that can save your mindset, I guess maybe is a better way of putting it. And we've talked about mindset, and I know like mindset is this really hard, really convoluted road to go down, but you gotta focus on the things that you do have that, I mean, we all grew up with like, well, you better eat your food because there's starving kids in the world. Like, yeah, I know. Like, I get that, Mom. Like, I know, but like these, like nobody likes this. But my point being is that it's just the age old stuff of kind of like, like I said, comparison is the thief of joy. It's the age old, like you gotta find happiness in the things that you have. It's so much easier said than done. But when you're going to have a point in your life where you either are just going to wake up and be like, man, I was bitter my whole life and I just hated everything, or I was never okay with anything. Or you can look at the fact that like, yeah, I got food in my pantry. Yeah, I got a job. Yeah, it sucks. I don't like my job sometimes, right? Like that happens all the time. But it's like, what's the point of waking up and going to work every day and doing all those stuff if like you're not going to find some joy in living your life? Like, do something that makes you happy for once. Go try it.
So let me talk about some of the things you talked about. So one thing that I have learned is I don't believe that we are giving anything that comes in our life. I think there's always a way to overcome it. Yeah. I really do believe it. I don't think there's anything that comes in our life that we cannot overcome. Whether it be debt, whether it be pain, of death of a loved one, divorce, separation, death of a child, whatever it is, there's a way that you're going to be able to come out of it and stronger for it. I really do believe that.
Okay.
I don't think we're given anything that we cannot overcome. Secondly is the negativity and the sadness and the despair and the struggles that we face in life are real. However, how we focus on them does affect our mind. So I think just like Robert and just like everyone, we have to be. You said fake it before we make it, and how there's controversy. I don't think you can fake being grateful, but I also believe that some people have a hard time being grateful for what they have. And
Mhm.
so I think for me, I actually wake up, and before I go, I actually think of three things that I'm grateful for
Yeah,
that
I
day.
do the
And it
same thing.
always has to be something that's real. Like I am so grateful that my kids are healthy and alive. Like they might be struggling a little bit, but I'm grateful they're here under my roof. I'm grateful for my wife. Like she is the most caring, loving person. I am grateful for my job. Even though it might be a struggle sometimes, I'm grateful that I have it so that I can like
Yeah.
have this house, have food.
Feeds my kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just and as you start being grateful and being honest, because I said fake it before you make it, you're not being fake. You're actually being grateful for those things. And and if you don't have a job and you're trying to look for a job, you're just like, I am grateful for, and what are you grateful for? I'm grateful that I can look for a job. I'm grateful that I have a skill set that will allow me to find a job. There's all these things that you can be grateful for.
Mhm.
Um, and then after that, I just feel like everyone needs to take time for themselves. Whether I think a 15 to 30-minute walk without music,
Mhm.
without something blaring in the ears, just a 30-minute walk and just thinking um, with a purpose. I think that really helps.
Yeah, I
It
like that.
clears your mind and it clears your thoughts and it gets you out of all the negativity that you might be feeling in that moment. And so I think it needs to happen every day. And it is hard sometimes, especially like, but at lunch, everyone gets a 30-minute to an hour lunch. You can go walk for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just what I thought. And I think that really does help your mindset.
Yeah. Well, I know it might sound, I mean, I, I remember being very cynical about a lot of stuff all the time.
Uh huh.
And hearing stuff like that in the past would just been like, whatever. I'd have scrolled past. I'd have like, I don't like that. Like that's bull crap. But, like that's kind of like my thought process would have been, right? My thought process would have been, was just like, oh, that's, they don't get it. They don't get what I'm going through. Like you can't be happy when you're this depressed or this man, or when you are sitting on the edge of your bed and you're hallucinating like a dark figure telling you all the horrible things about yourself, right? Like, so like I can see both sides of the coin, but having lived, I guess, kind of both sides of the coin,
Uh
like
huh.
I'm not rich by any means. And like I don't have the dream truck I want. I don't have the dream house I want or whatever. Do I still hope for those things one day?
Yeah.
Sure. Do I still hope for 150 acres and a barn dominium and an F450 that's like decked out 100%? Because
Fabulous.
that's where my brain goes
Uh
when I
huh.
want. But at the same time, does that mean that because I don't have those things yet, I can't be grateful for the fact that I am waking up every morning next to my wife,
Uh-huh.
or the fact that I have, I make enough to pay my bills, or that my wife, we had enough to go on a date,
Yeah.
or, that I had enough to provide Christmas for my kids, or whatever, like that I have the time to do these things. Like there is real like science and real like emotional change and happiness that comes from gratitude. Like I know that can sound so gaggy of kind of like, oh, you just got to be grateful. But
Mm-hmm.
like no, like if you just start practicing gratitude, you can change the way that the chemicals like fire in your brain, and you can change your own perspective on things to where you're not like brainwashing yourself or gaslighting yourself. Like you can just truly see things in a different light. We just talked about this the other
Yeah.
day, and I feel like we talk about the same 37 things in a different way. But like there's that parable of like of every man has, every man or woman, whoever, like you have two wolves. I think it's an old Native American parable where there's one wolf that like is chained up in the dark. And then there is one wolf that is living in the light, like and it has all these things going for it. And it's like, which one do you think is going to be the stronger, happier wolf? We're like, oh, the one in the light. No, it's the one that you feed. So if you feed the one in the darkness all the time, that one's going to be the stronger one. Yeah, it's living in darkness, but it's going to be the stronger one. But if you feed the one in the light, then that one's going to be the stronger one. So it's like, I know that's kind of it's a parable that everybody's
Yeah.
heard, but that there's so much truth to it. If you feed the negative over and over and over, that's just going to be the filter that you see everything through. But if you really try to feed the other one, you try to feed the positivity, you try to feed the gratitude, you try to feed just like finding three, like that's all I would say is find three for like set an alarm on your phone for the next week, 2 weeks. Wake up and tell yourself three things that you're grateful for. Even if it's just like, I'm not late to work today.
Yeah.
Because there was a time period where I was getting in trouble because I was so depressed. I was late to work every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, you got to start small and then it builds and it builds. And then you will become an insufferably grateful person that will just, everyone's just like, I can't be around that guy. He is too grateful all the time. But that's just my outlook. And it's changed my life. Gratitude has changed my life. And a lot of that has come from friendships with you and Robert and Matt and just these other guys that have been through stuff and have come out on top. And we all talk about gratitude all the time.
Yeah. And having a different outlook and being grateful does not mean that we're not going through stuff.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Because I was just told you Monday. So today's Saturday. I told you Monday I was like a 10 out of 100. I was down.
Oh yeah,
And there was a reason why, but there was a reason why, but there wasn't a reason why I was a 10 out of 100. Like I should, you know what I mean? The stress,
it just happens. Yeah,
the stress and everything just got to me to the point where I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do this. Not my life or anything like that. It's just what I was, like the whole Copper John situation. It's just like, there's a lot that people don't know. About running a business, that it just sometimes it's just the stress gets to you.
Well, you have to give that stuff the space. Like you can't just
shut it out.
You can't shut out the negativity. You can't 100% shut out the bad things, because if you ignore those, sometimes those things will get bigger too. So it's not like the whole wolf parable is, the light and dark wolf is the answer.
This is where discipline comes in. We've talked about this before. Have we talked about discipline, or is it just an idea that
we had a whole episode on it like 2 weeks ago?
We talked so much. This is where discipline comes in, where it's just you have to take care of the stress. And so I have all this stress in my life, and I took care of it that day. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work, and I figured it out for the most part. There's still some things going on. But then the next day I call him, I'm 60 out of 100 now. And then 50 is a huge jump. And so I was like, yeah, I feel good today. And, but it's just like this quote by Valerie Bertinelli. I ruined it, sorry. Happiness is a choice. You can choose to be happy. There's going to be a stress in life, but it's your choice whether you let it affect you or not. And so for me, I let it affect me, but it wasn't by choice. I felt the weight of the world that day.
Oh yeah.
And but the discipline allowed me to continue doing it, even though I just wanted to shut off.
Yeah.
And then, but I was grateful, and I had to show myself gratitude that I was able to take care of it. That there's always a way to come out of it. There's always a way. It might take some creativity, but there's a way. And I don't know. I do believe that happiness is a choice. You can look at the negative, or you can look at the positive.
Yeah.
You can be grateful, or you can be angry.
Well, and I mean, you've heard that phrase, like, embrace the suck.
Oh yeah. There's days where you have to.
You we're all going to go through it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't ever want to paint the picture that you and I like don't have issues anymore. Or we're like, because like I still very much so have a million things I need to work on, and I am up to my eyeballs in mud. You know what I mean? Like,
so remember when I talked? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
Remember when I talked to you about my one of my professors in college, where he got his PhD, and the only thing that he could figure out that was offering a grant or a Pell Grant was to learn about breeding of porcupines.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So like he knows, if you want to know anything about porcupines, he is your guy.
Sure.
And I feel like that's us as we grow and we become grateful, and we try to turn not our life around, but try to be not positive sounds right, happy.
Yeah.
Like, because there is a sense of false positivity that can actually be a detriment. But but being happy in the suck, being all that kind of stuff. And so as we've learned, and now you said we're progressing, like I feel like we're progressing and becoming better. And when we feel like we have something, okay, I'm doing good now, another weakness will pop up. Another issue will pop up. And that's what I feel. I feel like the more I know, or the more I become, the more I know how much more I have to grow.
Well, I think that one thing I've noticed in my life is the more that I experience positive change, the more I want to I want to share that.
Uh-huh.
The more that I realize that, like, man, I never saw this perspective before, and I'm like baffled that I used to like think the exact opposite. So I like want to share that and be like, you guys, there's so much better over here. Like
Uh-huh.
I've been over there, it sucks. But like that's what I'm saying, embrace the suck, because you kind of have to go through it to get the perspective. Right? So you have to go through the crap. Like I said, I'm up to my eyeballs in crap every single day, like everybody else. But when you get the perspective of kind of like, but I've been over my head in crap before. I felt like I was drowning before. I felt like I was just gonna embrace the drowning and just let it take me over, and then
I've been there.
and just be like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Uh-huh.
Like I want to leave this world. Like I'm done. So like being able to have my eyeballs and my nose above the mud, above the water, and being able to like, hey, I can breathe. I can see now. So it's like, so I can see the way out. So okay, how am I gonna do that? Well, you start swimming. And it's like, and then you're like, hey, this person, I found this person along the way, and they've got a buoy. So you attach yourself to that person, and they're like, yeah, I used to be where you're at. And then I found this person who had a buoy, and then they ended up making it out of the water, but they left me their buoy. And then you just gotta you gotta continue to like, if you found any path to like a better life or happiness or whatever, like it is so much more fulfilling if you turn around and grab the hand of the person that was that's in the spot that you just got out of, and then you're like, man, like you you got to come over to this side. Like it is so much better over here. Like life is amazing when you look at it from this perspective. And it's like, I know when you're below the water and you're drowning, you just want to embrace it and let it take you. But like having someone pull you up, whether that's a person, a friend, or like a religious perspective or whatever, like it is just so it is so much it's so much better for your life. It is so much better for your overall, you know, just quality of life. So that's where I say perspective and gratitude and everything is you have to try. That's the best words I have is you got to try, because the other end of it is just staying exactly where you're at and stagnant, and it's getting just unhappy. It's miserable.
So, first, thank you. That was really, I
I
love
was
that.
just watering my beard.
You need salt water in your beard every now and then. There's goals out there. There's guys who are trying,
Yeah.
but they might be trying it the wrong way because they're just trying to be better people for other people. Meaning, there was a point, and there still is, I want to be kind. I want to be loving. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. Those are wonderful goals to have, but those are for you to change to be better for someone else. What goals do you think we need to have in our life so that we are being better for ourselves? Because I think it's admirable to want to be a kind person. I think it's admirable to want to show love to other people. But before we do that, we have to be kind to ourselves. We
Mhm.
have to love ourselves. Because if we are kind to ourselves, we love ourselves. Um, I'm going religious here for 5 seconds.
Yeah, go for
Where
it.
where Jesus said to, was it, I can't remember who it was, but it's like, pull the mote out of your eye before you pull the beam out of, or whatever the,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
what's the quote?
you're pulling the plank out of your eye before. Yeah, or like I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
basically, you have a freaking huge beam in your eye and he has a sliver.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
pull
Yeah, but
whatever. And so,
I think it's like pull the twig out of your eye, or pull it before you try to pull the twig out of somebody else's eye. Pull the plank out of yours.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. And basically with that, and so it's just like, how can I because as soon as I can accept myself, as soon as I can love myself, there's going to be so much more love to give you that will be able to be more kind. I'll be able to be more loving. I'll be a better husband. I'll be a better father if I love myself. So what type of goals and what do we need to be doing in order for us to truly love ourselves?
I think if you really ask yourself that question and you sit down and you really give it the time to think about it, I think you'll realize that you can find that answer yourself, because it is so individualized,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, my biggest thing that I've learned in my whole mental health journey is just how freaking powerful your brain is. Like, just like if you look at it like as a computer,
It is a computer.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is so insanely powerful. And if you sit there and like give it the chance to work and listen and think through, like meditate, find, when you have any moment of clarity, sit down and think through that, because that is a different answer for every single person. So like your goal is, mine was to remove the desire to want to end my life,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that that was going to be the solution for my wife and kids. And then once I overcame that, it was feeling, feeling like I am a positively impactful person. Right. And then after that, it was like, hey, now once I've got that, it's feeling like I have value to add to people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very individual to every single person. So for me, my current thing is kind of like the do no harm thing. Like I want to just leave something positive with every single person I come in contact, and leave it to where I am not, and I can't control everybody.
Yeah.
I can't control anybody but myself. And I can't control somebody's perspective of me, because we've talked about this before. There's a couple of guys I could name right now that hate me, and I don't know why.
Me
but
too.
but at the end of the day, their opinions don't bother me, because I know how I am, I know who I am, and I know what I stand for, and I know what, if they came to me, I'd help them just the same as I'd help anybody else. So my goal, and I think this should be similar for everyone else, is just that, just approach everything with kindness. But before you can do that, you gotta be kind to yourself. I love that you said that. You've got to find that world where you are accepting of yourself, but at the same time critical enough of yourself that you can see your faults and fix them.
Yeah.
So accepting yourself and being kind to yourself doesn't mean giving yourself a pass when you know that what you're doing is wrong. So that's literally, again, we're back to the gray area. Nothing's black and white.
Well, you haven't seen this.
Yeah.
There's a quote by Margaret Thatcher, and she goes, "You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it."
Ooh.
So finding your weaknesses, we all know our weaknesses.
Oh, I got lots of them.
Yeah, all of us do. And that's why I said our previous episodes and stuff like that, where it's like you're going to have to talk to your wife or your spouse or your significant other or whomever, and talk to them and say, "Hey, I need help. What do I need help in? What do you think?" And you're going to have to take that in and find out, But if you have a certain weakness, we were talking about Jordan Peterson,
Mm-hmm.
when we went to see him at the Delta Center. There was a question that was brought up about pornography, where the guy looked at pornography several times a day.
Well, because of he saw that it ruined
He's ruining his life.
It ruined his mom and dad's marriage, and he says he's slowly falling into it. And
yeah. And so Jordan Peterson said, "Okay, so it's probably not feasible if you're looking at it 4 times a day to completely get out of it." He's like, "But can you look at it 2 times a day? Can you look at it 1 time a day?" And so eventually you're not looking at it all, because you slowly have gone off, because it is an addiction. So just like say you're trying to quit alcohol, or it's like, you're probably not going to be able to quit automatically just like that. There's not a lot of people who can flip a switch. There's a lot of people that can't just flip a switch,
yes,
and just be cut off completely. Yeah. And so we're going to fail.
Yeah.
We're not going to win the battle over and over and over. We're going to have some losses. You got to be able to forgive yourself and move on and be grateful that, oh my goodness, guess what? I didn't do it 4 times a day. I did it once today. And be grateful for it. And that's a win. That is a huge win. You decreased it by 75%. And then next week, guess what? I don't want to look at it this week.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now we went from 4 times to 0 times in like a span of 3-4 months. That is a freaking huge win.
Yeah.
I haven't smoked today, but I used to smoke a whole packet or 2 packs a day.
Yeah.
That's a huge win.
Yeah.
I had 1 cigarette a day. You know, I saw those type of things that like, it's just, you may have to fight the battle more than once to win it.
It's funny you say that, and this will probably be the last thing that I'll say, right? Because this is like a meaningful thing to me. I had this reoccurring dream. Like when you got the brain activity that I do, you should see the dreams I've had. For years, I had this reoccurring dream that I was on this battlefield, like almost like movie Lord of the Rings type battlefield, like cool. Swords, shields, right? And all around me was everybody that I cared about, right? And we were all decked out in this armor, and the enemy at the other end of the field, I couldn't tell what it was or whatever, because obviously I don't remember that vividly, but we would all like charge, start running. And then I would start getting like worked up, and I would start feeling like self-doubt, and I would start feeling these things, and then I would stop. And then like it would turn, and like the people that meant a lot to me were like, kind of like, what are you doing? Like, we got to go at this. And then I would like sit down and start like crying and hyperventilating, and then like just like give up. And then it would just end with them like kind of shaking their heads at me and just going off into battle and just leaving me. So it was like, I was just giving up. And I had that dream over and over and over again. But it's funny, is the other day, I had that same dream, but this time, twice in one episode, sorry. I was like so far ahead of everybody. Like everybody was like following me. I just felt like subconsciously, I'm like, something has switched in me. Something has changed where I see myself as so much more of like a stronger person, of like, no, I'm charging into battle and facing whatever my problems are head on, because every time I sat down, I never got anywhere. And all I did was disappoint people that I really cared about. Versus now, because your subconscious is this whole thing that you want to get dive into like what your subconscious brain means. But like, man, I woke up and I had the best freaking day. Just feeling that personal win of like just a dream. It was a dream that was the exact opposite of one that haunted me for years. And I think that comes from just the true change of that I decided, with the help of my wife and the help of people that truly cared about me, the people that existed within those boundaries, kind of getting back to what you're talking about, the people that I don't have to conform to be around. They like, I now feel like a completely different person that is helping lead people to like conquer battles, conquer trials, conquer things that tear us down. And that's the whole thing, like what I try to do with my social media. And it's just like, it's so much more rewarding to like give yourself time to work through your stuff, and then just move on through the things that hurt you, and go attack the next thing. Because your life is just so much better when you just are trying to take care of yourself.
Love you, man.
Love you too, dude.
We're done.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. It means the world to us. If you have a chance, please give us a 5-star review, as well as write something a little pretty in there so that we know that you know that we know that you care. Anyway, have a great day, guys. See, I can't do it.
Dude, that was good. I liked that. You can't redo it without laughing. That was good.